It's a nice lady. Just
There
remind
we,
me.
there we
Okay.
go. The reminder. So,
Yeah.
hi everyone. It's Michael, and we're here at the Joyful Life Project, and we're here today with a fine gentleman, Rob Kerr. And Rob, with that being said, do you want to say a couple of words or a few words about yourself?
Hi, Michael.
There you
Yeah,
go.
sure. My name is Rob Kerr. As you said, I'm an independent consultant working here in Guelph under the creative name of Robert J. Kerr and Associates.
Oh, clever.
I I provide support services mainly to municipalities, but also in the private sector, companies, developers, post-secondary colleges and universities, and I help them with their climate plans, to put it simply. So the phenomenon we see in the world is institutions of all types are making aggressive commitments towards net zero, which is a term around zero carbon emissions.
Yeah.
And yet many of those same institutions are struggling to find the pathway to that. So that's simply put what I do. I don't work alone. I work on Zoom, as we are now, very often, certainly
Right.
post-pandemic, but I have, even prior to, did a lot of remote support. And I work in a collaborative environment with other consultants
Nice.
that assemble around projects. And that's a simple description of what I do. The exciting part about it is I'm of retirement age, so I could choose to shut it down, but I am not even inclined a little bit to do that. There's just so much opportunity out there. And I
Fantastic.
feel a real drive. I feel a real mission in my work still, which is still quite rewarding. So
The passion's still there, is it?
I don't think about my age or retirement much at all.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Nice.
and I feel quite fortunate for that. I really do, and I just express it that way. Because I, of course, know people who have retired from different kinds of jobs quite happily because they've had enough.
Right.
And I'm lucky to have found myself in a profession where I don't feel that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you know that segues us quite nicely, Rob, into our first question.
Mhm.
Question number one, which is, what does it mean to you to live a joyful life?
Oh my goodness, quite a question.
An easy one.
I think I'll just jump in and try and answer that question. It's
Yeah.
kind of the big question of life for so many people, I think. So
Indeed it is. Yeah. And that's part of why I'm asking.
Kind of got that ultimate question feel to it. But I would say because of my age, or just the fact that I've been working, and I'll take it from the perspective of working, which is maybe more broadly defined as how do I spend my days? What are the things I do?
Yeah.
And I'm in a position to maybe get a handle around that question a little better for that. And I think I used the word rewarding earlier, and understanding what is rewarding is the challenge. So I could tell you stories of very unpleasant and unjoyful experiences I've had through my working life and how they overlap with my personal life.
Right.
And how they get all meshed up. I won't do that. I think what I would say is sort of understanding what brings you joy. So it's sort of looking inward and really naming it. And I have been in very unpleasant work environments that have made my waking life unpleasant from morning till night. And I think on reflection, it was sort of understanding or not coming to understand what I didn't when I was in the middle of those situations, which was I wasn't really naming what was making me unjoyful. Wasn't naming it.
Right.
And I've learned that in different situations, whether they're work related or personal relationships or something, is feeling I'll use the word unjoyfulness because that's your topic, but feeling unhappy, unrewarded, unfulfilled, but not being able to say why. There's that feeling of powerlessness that comes from that. And taking back the power I've learned from experience. I'm not trying to sound like a guru here, but right.
Right.
But it's just sort of naming it, like being very honest about what is making me unhappy, and
Yeah,
and,
right.
and that doesn't necessarily change anything, but it's gets you in the right direction to change things.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So what I'm kind of hearing in there is the recognition of feeling unhappy or feeling whatever is unwanted is actually, maybe the first step in being able to orient yourself towards what you
Yeah,
want.
exactly. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Huh.
So that's something I can share with certain confidence that from experience. Uh, and also, maybe I can append to that, the desire to be happy. I think everybody has, you know,
Yes.
I don't think you have to sort of find that.
It seems like one of those universals, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of innate, everybody wants
Yeah.
to be, or would say yes if you ask them.
Yeah.
Um, um, but I would say that not every waking minute of your life has to be happy. I think
Good
there's
point.
there's something about getting drawn in by minutia or little things or petty things that can seem bigger than they are. And I every day I think I could give you an example where that happens. Grinding through some chore or some functional thing or some administrative thing, whether
Right.
it's your life, like having to pay bills, and nobody likes that. Those things are sort of in the same theme as just naming it, is that is not your life. Those are things that we all have to do,
Yeah.
and not letting them drag you down. I think, on the theme of naming things, and being truthful about what's happening around you or how you feel about them, can come in different forms. And I just read, and it wasn't in preparation for this conversation, and more coincidence, but I just read an article about procrastination.
Right.
Right. So everybody would laugh just like you did about, oh yeah, I know what that is. I think
Yeah,
everybody.
absolutely.
Um, and why do we procrastinate? I know even to this very day, and I work at home as an independent consultant, so I am confronted with the allure of procrastination.
I like how you put that, the allure of,
Yeah,
yes.
slow, it's always a distraction. Oh, maybe I'll walk the dog. I'll do, something, whatever. Um, why do we do that was the theme of the article I read. And I found it quite easy to grasp. It was kind of, that's how we take our power back, right? It's about power, but sort of misapplied. So, it's kind of like a subconscious thing, whereas I'm not going to let this job make me unhappy. I'm not going to sit at my desk right now. I'm going to do something else. But I don't think it's conscious. So it comes to that theme about, being very honest about that.
Hmm.
Why am I procrastinating? It's because I don't want to sit at my computers and pay bills for the next 2 hours.
Right.
Like, just name it, right? It doesn't mean that will go away, but being honest with it is good. I have a tactic that I use, and I've learned a long time ago, maybe by coincidence, but it so works for me, which is, kind of project how you're going to feel when you're done paying those bills. And I'm using that as an example.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Well, filing your taxes, whatever. I could go on and on, all kinds of unpleasant things that nobody really loves to do, or very few people. It just sort of picture how you're going to feel when you're done doing it.
Right.
And I find that kind of visualization quite powerful because it always comes true. Right? You kind of get, oh, that's time. Oh, I got that chore done. Everybody has a little bit of reward from those things,
Sure, yeah.
right? Cleaning the house or making a phone call you haven't made, want to avoid it. Or so there's something I think you will hear from, coaches like yourself, maybe, or other folks who you've asked to advise you, is, and this is very a tactical thing, and I don't want to get into that because there's lots of tactics to address
Sure.
that.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
But one of them is, be be very honest about the things you don't want to do. Say you're looking at your calendar tomorrow, whether
Yeah.
personal stuff, business stuff, whatever, work stuff. Make the list of the things you don't want to do or wouldn't prefer not to, or however you want to
Right.
frame. And then in the morning, do those first.
Right. Yeah.
That's a really powerful thing. Like, that can and I don't do it very well.
I appreciate the
Right.
honesty there, Rob.
Well, I don't want to
Yeah.
come across as, and I get frustrated with people who do this as, have figured it all out.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Really talking about things that have worked for me personally. But it's a very powerful thing. If you spend an hour doing those unpleasant things in the morning, whatever they might be, I don't think it's hard for people to actually come up with that list.
Mm,
It's such a powerful way to start your day. It can be
yeah.
like 9 o'clock in the morning and you feel like, whoa, I'm accomplished, I'm underway, I'm doing things I really want to do. It's very powerful.
Yeah, I would agree. And I really love how you the way that you approach the role of procrastination.
Mhm.
That's pretty cool. Like what I'm hearing is sort of that it's an indicator of something that you don't want to do right now, but not that it's something you're not going to do.
Yeah.
Right. That it's like, yeah, I'm noticing that I don't want to do this. So maybe right now in this moment, the best thing to do is to go walk the dog and then come back to it. Is kind of what I'm hearing in there. I'm not sure if
Yeah. Those are the conversations that happen in your head around that
indeed.
stuff. That's how you talk to yourself. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I need some fresh air. That's a good thing. Well,
Yeah.
I'll walk the dog, right? These are just examples. But I think if you sort of sum all that up, it's kind of like, and you're asking me about joyfulness,
Hmm.
is this notion of power. Like, I think the feeling of powerlessness that I think all humans experience can be quite devastating.
Yeah.
It can really take you to places that are not good. Um, and there's just so, power is a word you hear often, people talk about it, but just that feeling of I don't have control over stuff, or I can't figure out how to have control over this, and there's noise in your head. If you kind of parse it out and really name it, it's never really earth-shattering thing. This is a
Right. That's right.
combination of noise, like static, it's just like a radio station that's not tuned in quite right. It's like,
So that's such a cool metaphor there. So and I've got to be mindful of time, Rob.
yeah,
And
I understood. Yeah.
so how does tuning work for you? Like you said that there's that's static. How do you actually tune into the frequency away from the static? What guides you in doing that?
Well, I think it is a tactical thing. Like I gave you that example of doing the least desirable things first thing.
First, right? Yeah.
I think that's would be my answer. That you know, there's either two parts to this idea of being happy, right? One is it a mental exercise,
Right. Yeah.
to some degree. So, but it's foolish to just to say that or attempt to inspire somebody to just simply sit and feel happy from a place maybe they're not. I just think that that's foolish. I think you have to act on it, right?
Yeah.
So that that's where those tactics come in, little tricks of the trade. But the bridge between the two is just being truthful about it, right?
Right.
About what is making you unhappy. That can be a bit of an exercise. A lot of people don't know. I think, and I've been in that place where I've gone years and years and I haven't understood why I'm unhappy.
Right.
Or there's just this noise in your head and not quite something burdening me.
Yeah. That idea of naming it, noticing it and then naming it, that does resonate for me. It's not the way that it's not necessarily how I've looked at it before, but I think you're right. There is something to noticing and acknowledging.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that seems to be a bit of a springboard to, well, okay, if not this, then maybe I want that over there.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I can, as we sort of said earlier, that can be the springboard to what is actually desired or wanted. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And we've kind of addressed this already, but question number 2, Rob,
Yeah.
and we'll say, put this one in a nutshell,
Okay.
is what advice would you offer someone who is looking to live a more joyful life? Yeah. Yes. Having already established that may not be the best
Well,
thing.
I think, I would just synthesize what I've already said. If somebody was to approach me and ask me such a major question,
Right.
Yeah.
That's very polite of you.
I think that's what I would say is just be very, maybe seek out and be very honest about the things that are making you ask that question.
Mm,
Um, I think that's probably the best advice I could give. I know it sounds a little bit broad, and I'm speaking from personal experience, and it doesn't happen easily. Being
right.
honest about things is difficult. Yeah.
I really appreciate that connection that you're drawing between honesty, truth, like self-honesty, self-truthfulness, and then empowerment, and then joy.
Yeah, I think that's a really good sequential way to link some keywords together. You just did it. I can give you a quick story. I said I was going to avoid it, but
Please do.
I won't name names or places here, but for 10 years, I worked inside an organization that was big. So I had a bureaucracy and rules and regulations, a work environment, as many
Yeah.
people do. And I was never opposed to working in that environment. I believe in organizations and working cooperatively and so forth. But I can just, in a nutshell, became extremely miserable in that job and could not find a way out.
Right.
Couldn't picture myself walking out the door. Couldn't offer up any solutions internally. Many efforts to do so. And on reflection, I was the frog in the boiling water. That's a reflective phrase I use, but it was just, I became so unable to really name what was going on.
Right.
Right. There were some toxic people in that organization, and I kept trying to give a break to and
Right.
find a way to figure them out. The organization itself had changed its mission. It was no longer aligned with mine.
Right.
I was not accepting of that. I wanted to fight it back. And,
Right.
this organization had thousands of people in it. And yet I was feeling the burden of trying to bring it back to where it was when I started.
Right.
Just crazy notions, right?
Yeah.
And eventually I left that organization. And once I was out and I reflected on that, I just saw it so differently. I just thought,
Right.
wow, I'm glad I'm not there anymore. I didn't even choose to leave. So it's still possible I could still be stuck there.
Right.
They eliminated my job. And in doing so did me a really big favor.
I was just that's what was sort of going through my head, is that they did you a favor there.
Yeah, but I didn't even know it. In fact, in the moment that happened, it was the most devastating thing I'd experienced as a grown-up. Really, it was just devastating. Because I was so still willfully determined to make it good again and make me
Right.
happy.
Yeah.
And I think I would just say I was, it's not easy to name it. It's not easy to call out the truth perspective. And I didn't seek any help to do that.
Right.
There were offers for help and I refused them.
Right. Wow. Right.
Or didn't embrace them.
Yeah.
So I think I tell that story that it can be, you can get down a deep dark hole if you're in a place where you're really hard to really name what's making you unjoyful.
Mm.
And that's not necessarily a really happy conclusion.
No, but I think that really speaks to the way it seems to me is that the more I'm clear on what I don't want, the easier it is for me to
Yeah,
recognize
that's okay.
and
That's fair.
appreciate what I do want, right? It's like the clearer I get on what I don't want, inherently in that is movement towards what I do want, right? It's
Apparently it is. It's like a pathway. It's never a binary thing of, one trick makes it all work. So I think that story that I tell is very profound for me, because painful lesson really enlightened me in so many ways
right.
that became unexpected. It's like, But ultimately, the truth of my situation was forced upon me.
Right.
I could be a little metaphysical about it, say the universe forced it on me, or
Uh-huh.
circumstances did. And I'm kind of grateful in a lot of ways. I think, just to give you an example around just naming it, I worked with people that were in a similar situation with me, but hung in there, but
Right.
had an understanding why they did, which was, I want to get my full pension. I want,
Right.
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 And I would choose to be critical of those folks as opposed to just saying they've actually accepted their truth.
Right. Wow. Yeah.
Whatever costs they might have had to bear for that, it seems they were clear about it.
Right.
I was not. That was never a motivation for me. But I didn't go there to say, no, that's not me. That was more like, oh, I'm just going to criticize those guys. So that's how stuck I kind of got on that.
There's a whole conversation we could have around that, Rob.
Yeah, it's true.
Um,
But it wasn't serving to enlighten me, I guess is what I'm saying, right?
yeah, got
So
it.
my own feelings, my own truth. Yeah.
Super cool, Rob. I'm so glad we did this, and our timing is impeccable because it's the top of the hour, and I've got someone coming into the room now. So
All right.
I'm going to wrap us up, Rob. Hold on one second while I hit pause.